G'day wrestling mates, welcome to If You See Kayfabe, and you can see we've got here the split screen, means we've got an interview. Now the man in the split screen has already accomplished heaps in his life. He's got an incredible journey ahead of him that we're going to talk about. He has brought comfort to many grieving families, has produced films, and now is set to become a member of the Brethren of Wrestlers. Who put their bodies on the line for our entertainment. So please welcome to the If You See Kayfabe studios, all the way from Chicago, USA, from here in Melbourne, Australia, Mr. Wade Simmons. How you doing, Wade?
I'm doing great, and I really like the introduction, by the way, but I'm doing fabulous. Very big wrestling fan. I'm a wrestler myself, so I'm very excited about being on today.
That's great. Yeah. But the first thing I've got to ask you, though, your bio or the info I've been able to see on you says you're a funeral director and a filmmaker as well. So is that correct?
I've been in the funeral business going on 15 years, but I just got my intern license last year, but I will be fully licensed this year, so I will be a fully licensed funeral director this year. Yes.
Okay, and then once you make it in wrestling, that'll make you the second funeral director in wrestling.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
Yeah, well, Paul Bearer, yep. There's only one Paul Bearer. I don't think nobody's gonna top that. But yeah, it's a pretty cool journey. I did wrestle in high school, so I didn't know like back then that I would ended up training for professional wrestling, but it kind of happened somewhere later down the road. But I'm glad it happened.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Okay, so what got you into funeral directing?
So as a child, I always wanted to be a funeral director and a filmmaker. And so I always said that those were the two things that I was going to do. So when I went to high school, my senior year, my teacher, Miss Anderson, she called a funeral director by the name of Spencer Leak here in Chicago and said, "Hey, I got a young man that wants to be a funeral director. So can you take him and train him?" And he told me to, show up in a gold tie, white shirt, and a black suit. And so I started working for them in high school, and then I just stayed with them, and then I ended up going to college for it. So that's kind of how that happened. But it was always something I wanted to do since childhood.
What attracted you to it? Because it's just very different. I mean, most kids, they want to be a policeman or an astronaut or something like that.
I think me growing up in church and everything, I went to a lot of funerals and stuff, and I used to kind of be around it a lot. So it was something that I just kind of drew interest in.
Hmm. And you're a filmmaker as well. What sort of films have you done?
So I make a lot of more independent short films. I got a lot of them over on Vimeo, but I've been doing that for about 9 years now. So I actually went to college for both funeral service, and then I ended up going to film school right after going to school to be a funeral director. So it was both something that I do have a academic education background in, but even with that, right, like I always think learning it and actually doing it sometimes is kind of two different things. But yeah, I ended up going to college for both, and so I just jumped right in and I started producing my own short films and making documentaries and things of that nature. But I enjoy it. I love it. And actually, filmmaking is what ended up kind of leading me to start training for pro wrestling because I was going to make a documentary on pro wrestling. And instead of me making a documentary, I ended up getting trained for it.
So, were you always a wrestling fan?
Always, yeah. And
Yeah.
again, I wrestled in high school freshman year and my senior year. So freshman year, I was on the team for a little while, then I quit. And then my
Okay.
senior year, I said, you know what? I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna finish the season this time. And so I went on and joined the wrestling team at Bloom Township High School, and then I stuck with it, finished the season, and then I didn't think about it as much no more. But then when I went to college, I kind of thought about it a little bit. Like I really kind of wanted to go to a college that had like a wrestling team, but I was
Hmm.
more concerned about the mortuary science and the filmmaking, so I didn't think about it as much. And right after graduating mortuary school, I went to film school, and then right after
Hmm.
film school, I wanted to jump right in and make a documentary, and so I went to CSW, the training facility, when I went to the training facility, I was talking to Steve Boz, and he knew that I wrestled in high school, and we got to talking. And so instead of me focusing on the documentary, he's just like, "When are you gonna start training?" And I'm like, "I'll start next week."
So just like that, after that one talk, you thought, well, I'm going to do this wrestling professionally.
Absolutely.
Okay. And so what CSW was the school you trained at?
Yeah, so Chicago style wrestling. I
Mm-hmm.
trained with them for about 2 years. This was back in I think 2021 during COVID actually. So it was really
All right.
interesting. And so I
Yeah.
stuck around for 2 years because I did it more as a hobby. I wasn't getting into it more like to not necessarily trying to go like the WWE or TNA or nothing like that. Like I did it for fun. I did it as a hobby because I think to me, right, sometimes you want those things in your life that you can do for fun.
Mm.
Not everything always have to be like, it's just a really big career goal. Like it wasn't anything like that. But because I feel like sometimes when you do something that you love and then you kind of turn it into a career sometimes, if you don't really balance it the right way, you can get burned out and things of that nature. So I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
keep my
Yeah.
love for it, so I trained and had a lot of fun, met a lot of cool people. Like I got a chance to meet Hornswoggle,
All right.
Carlito, Scotty Too Hottie. These were all individuals that came to even Jacob Fatu before he went to WWE. He actually
Yeah.
came to one of our events at CSW. So I've met a lot of cool people.
Did they all train you, or they just came to hang out?
They just came and worked the shows.
Okay. So you've wrestled some matches.
And only in practice and only in actual high school, yeah. But as far as going out doing the shows, no, I didn't. The only thing I did at the shows was work security because like a lot of times in wrestling when you first start out, when you're green as they call it, a lot of
Yeah.
times they have you working security at the shows. And then too,
Yeah.
like with me being in the funeral business and then being a filmmaker, I was kind of already occupied with those things. So I really didn't have, how can I put it? I really didn't have a whole lot of time to commit to it because again, I did it not like if it was something that I was pursuing like seriously and as a career, I probably would have spent a lot of more time with it. But I trained and just had a blast with it. I'm actually still working on the documentary. I just went and shot some B-roll the other day, by the way. So I'm still
Oh,
working
okay.
on that too. Yeah.
Is that just a documentary on the indies, or?
Yeah, so it's a documentary about the indies as well as me training for it and stuff. So it's pretty cool. So I'm still work. I want to make it as good as it can be. So I'm gonna keep on working at it till I get it to where it's presentable.
Okay, and where would you present it after it's finished?
I'm thinking about putting it on my Vimeo or I don't know. It's kind of I'm playing around with a few different ideas. It's
Yeah,
like nowadays there's so many different places you can put film, right? And it's.
more the self-publishing route.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, and I can't ask you one question because the photos you sent to me were pretty cool. But the one who's got you in that headlock?
Oh, that was Cyphers.
Ah, right, because that's the thumbnail.
Yeah, yeah, that
That's the
one. Yeah,
thumbnail
you
for
know
this
what?
video.
After every show he comes up to us, right? and he intimidates us, right?
Oh, that's good. That's keeping kayfabe. That's keeping kayfabe because it's up until yesterday, I had a mullet and I just got it cut off. And I go to a local wrestling show down here in Melbourne called Alpha Pro Wrestling. And there's this guy who's about 6'10". And as he comes out to say g'day, he's seen my mullet and I've talked to him a few times after the show. And he just went, mwah, planted a kiss on my forehead. So it was pretty hilarious. Um, and also, you said your wife's cousin is Big Swole.
Yeah, I found
How,
that out. I found that out like what last year, and because I know on my wife's side, cousin Tracy, she kept telling me, "Oh, well, you got to meet cousin. You got to meet our cousin, and she's a wrestler." And I can't think of her. And she kept saying, "I can't think of her wrestling name, but I know you'll know her." So we finally got introduced at the family reunion. Yeah, and it was Big Swole. I said it's pretty nice to have some family in the business now. So that's pretty cool. I didn't know it at the time when I was, training because I hadn't met my wife yet back when I was training full time. But
All
yeah,
right.
I think that's pretty cool though. It's a
Yeah.
big world but a small one. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Very much so. Yeah. So, and how far do you think you'd take your business, your wrestling?
I'm looking to possibly, affiliate myself with a few new up and coming promotions because I do have some people that I know that are working on some promotions, and so I told them that once they get going, that I would love to help support in whatever way that I can. To me, I think that me personally, I think I like the storytelling aspect of pro wrestling, like as far as putting the show together, bringing the wrestlers together, because like for me, right. I found that like pro wrestling and the film industry, they do have a lot in common because it
Mm,
is sports, but it's also a production, you know. And so
yeah.
the production aspect of it, as far as putting it together, you got the lights, you got the camera, you got the crew, you have to put all, it's like all of the components that you do with filmmaking, right? You got to have a set, you got to have a place to work out of, you got to have a
Mm-hmm.
cast, you got to have a crew. And I mean, with the pro wrestling industry, right, it's a bit of storytelling, and to me, filmmaking especially involved now because everything now is media. Like even if, because like back in the day, right, there might have been some shows that wasn't necessarily being televised, but now with self distribution and all of this type of things, everybody is kind of touching up their wrestling promotions now, like a big production now. So I kind of
Yeah.
like that aspect of it. So. And then to be honest with you, I love bringing people together because like when I would go to the shows and work the shows and work security, you would see the fans come in, and for once people wasn't really worried about like basically color or race or thinking about like political things of that nature. Like everybody came together as a wrestling fan and they had fun, they had a blast, they were focused on the
Mm,
matches, and to see people happy and having a good time. And so I think that I really enjoy that aspect of it. I may get in the
yeah.
ring sometimes.
Have you got yourself a wrestling name, or do you think you'll just go in as Wade Simmons?
Uh, I do have a few names that I played around with, but I kind of wanted to stay away from the Undertaker gimmick. Um,
Ah, fair enough.
I feel like it's only one Undertaker, and him and Paul Bearer, Mark Calloway and Paul Bearer, they did a great job with that, and I think that they deserve their flowers for that. I mean, I did have a wrestling name that I came up with. I said I was gonna trademark it though. This was a while back, but it was actually the $1 Million Mortician. But it wasn't. but it wasn't like gonna be the same as like Paul Bear and the Undertaker, of course, because nobody can, that was their thing. And like I say, you want to be original. And see, like my thing is that, in my opinion, like with wrestling, I think that with being like gimmicks, I would want to stay away from some of the things that other people have did, just because like you don't really want to be compared to other people, because sometimes wrestling fans can be well, we're fans ourselves sometimes, so we
Yeah,
know that wrestling fans can be a little,
out there.
they can come at you a little aggressively sometimes when you use gimmicks that are really familiar. So I think, to me, I kind of like the idea of being a little more original.
Mm. Although that's some have said that can be hard because I mean a lot of focus this week has been on Hulk Hogan's passing and other things regarding that. But even if you take out some of the personal things, his gimmick was based on an old time wrestler named Superstar Billy Graham.
Okay.
Him, Hulk Hogan, and Jesse the Body Ventura, and even Dusty Rhodes, they've they've patted themselves after. If you look up Superstar Billy Graham, you'll look and say, "Well, yeah, that he looks like if Jesse Ventura and Hulk Hogan had a love child, that's what it would be." And
Yeah,
it's
that's true.
because, and even that, a lot of that and some other gimmicks have been patterned off Gorgeous George, and everything is like um, the Undertaker's probably one of the last original gimmicks in a way. Um, because no matter what, but then there'll be comparisons. Somebody might see you with whatever gimmick you can come up with, and they'll say, "Oh, doesn't he remind you of a young so and so?"
Yeah, that's true.
It. I'll only just touch on this because it might be a sensitive sort of thing. With Hulk Hogan's passing, what did that mean to you personally, and as like a fellow wrestler?
It was a bit out of shock because like the same day that we filmed the pro wrestling, the B roll for the documentary was the same day he actually passed away, if I'm not mistaken. And that's the day that I heard about it. I was like, it's like, oh man, like it's. I always say it's nice to for people to live as long as they can and hopefully be in good strength. Cause like I actually like Hulk Hogan. I'm not gonna say that like he was my favorite wrestler, but I respected him and I like the things that he's done for the business. And I was always happy when he came back. He had a lot of good memorable moments. And
Mm.
so, it always grieves me to lose anybody. And I just, give his family my condolences. But yeah, Hulk Hogan is definitely a legend. Definitely a legend.
Yeah, and I know he's made mistakes, but like Whoopi Goldberg once made a joke about something Jesus said that she paraphrased it, saying that if you he who does not have dog doo doo on the soles of their feet can walk on the white carpet of life. But she put it in something a bit more crudely. So
Yeah,
sort of
but
basically,
but I mean, I feel like being human, people make mistakes. Nobody's.
hmm,
I mean, I don't really look at any of us as being perfect. I think that as people, we learn to do better, and I think a lot of times when you don't know a person, and I think that this is one of the things about being in media, and like I don't like I'm not no big time celebrity, none of that. I'm not really into that kind of stuff. But for those individuals that are, whether they're a wrestler or a movie star, a lot of times people they know the artist, they don't a lot of times know the person. And
hmm,
sometimes I feel like, in their situations, a lot of time, people are human. You don't really know people. Sometimes people can make comments or say things, but I mean, that's all of us at times, right? Like, and this business and anything, right? Like a lot of times people can take clips of people saying things and it can get taken out of context.
yeah,
Sometimes there are some people that really say what they mean, but I think that you have to give people time to grow. We may not understand everything that people do or say. We may not like it. We may not get it. I don't know anything about his upbringing or background, but I try not to be too critical of people because I know the artist. I know the
hmm,
wrestler. I know the actor. I don't know the person. And
hmm,
so I try to always embrace it from that aspect because when you don't really know a person in real life, sometimes because anybody can. That's just like if I see somebody at a store and they're going off and they're having a rough day, or they may say something like it don't mean they're a bad person. They could just be having a rough day, or just upset. So we say
yeah,
things at times.
exactly
So
what I say.
yeah,
Exactly what I say, and that's why I like what you said about when you go to a wrestling show because my wife hates wrestling, but she puts up with because like she'll hear some of the stories that I talk about. Like I'll never say to her, "Oh, you should have seen this match. This guy did this to this guy. This guy did that." I'll talk to her about the stories behind the wrestling, much like what your filmmaking says. I'll talk about some of the stories, saying, "Oh, did you know that this guy?" Like even just with you, I said, "Well, the guy I'm recording with tonight, he's a funeral director and a filmmaker." And she went, "Whoa." That's different, and some of the other because I love doing the interviews because getting to know folks,
absolutely
and so because I've been blessed. I'm a really small. If you see my views on YouTube, I'm not Jim Cornette level by any stretch of the imagination, but just by asking and doing this and that, I've been able to interview Evan Ginsberg, who
nice.
he's in your sphere. Well, I've had him on twice. First time after I had him on, we chatted for an hour off air about different stuff with wrestling. Yeah, and Keith Elliott Greenberg, another person in your sphere. Barbara Goodish, who's Bruce Brody's widow.
Okay.
Um, Harley Race's son, Justin,
Hmm.
and a whole heap of people. Mike Quackenbush.
Oh
So,
man, yeah, and you know what? And I think that that's a really good thing because when you're interviewing somebody, you get to talk to them, you get to kind of get to know the person a little bit,
yeah,
and I think that's a beautiful thing. It's like it kind of remind me like at the shows, like I had a chance to talk to quite a few wrestlers. Like I got a chance to work a show, and we were sitting over there at the table where Hornswoggle was selling his shirts, and we talking to him, and talking to Scotty Too Hottie, and it's just like, these are people that we watched on TV and stuff like that. And just to, be able to train and be able to get to meet so many people, it was a blessing to me. And not just the people we know, but even the people that we didn't know, like the fans and the up and coming wrestlers. And,
hmm
I just always have a blast anytime I go to the shows. And that's why, like I say, I don't think I ever see myself stepping away from the business. I think if anything, whether it's behind the scenes or whatever I can do to help. Cause honestly, like I really was talking to a friend of mine. Like I was saying that I really would like to actually train some young people to do like to wrestle, because I know that when I was in high school, I loved wrestling and I loved being on the team. And I remember like Coach Fuqua, Coach Tong, and those guys, and Coach Damiami, and how they love what they did when we were in high school and we were doing the drills and things of that nature, and then being able to step into the professional wrestling world. So I would like to be able to train young people to, like, wrestle and things of that nature, maybe Greco-Roman style or something, I don't know. But I just love wrestling, and that's why I say that I'm more interested in doing something like kind of like that nature, because I know, like, WWE and even like AEW now, because like when I was training some of the AEW talent in Chicago, they were also training at the CSW too, some of them, and so I thought
okay.
that was pretty cool. But again, it's like, meeting so many young and up and coming wrestlers is always a pretty cool thing. And I mean, to see the next generation coming forth and training, because like you look at guys like Kurt Angle, Brock Lesnar, I think Shelton Benjamin. These are individuals that were wrestling. You know what I'm saying? And
The
I
proper
think that it's
grapplers.
always cool when you can kind of transition from, like high school wrestling and college wrestling, then step into pro wrestling. I mean, it's a little bit difference there, but it's pretty cool. I love it.
Well, yeah, so it's like that. The old term, the old timers call them shooters and hookers. Basically, someone who could put you into a pretzel without you even knowing about it. It's like you talk about documentaries. You've seen the Bret Hart documentary.
I didn't watch
Um,
it yet. I seen. I think I seen a little bit of the one about Ric Flair, but I don't. I gotta watch Bret Hart's.
oh yeah, especially his dad, who's now no longer with us. His dad, Stu Hart, ran Calgary Stampede wrestling in Canada, but he had a basement that he called the dungeon, and he'd take people there to show them different holds and so forth, and he'd be there like, yeah, you can see this guy here. See, I got it. There's this young guy. Here's this guy about 60, 70 years old. The young guy's pretzeled up like that. And he said, "Oh no, sir, no, sir, I'll give up." So yeah, see his forehead there. Yeah, the veins popping out real good. If I sit on it a bit more, it was almost sadistic to have a look at. But how much do you think having an amateur background helps you in the mechanics of pro wrestling?
I think it helps you tremendously a lot. Um, I think that for me it's easy because a lot of times for us, like when we started our practice, we used to have to do drills, and the drills we do were the same kind of drills I used to do in high school.
Mm.
I think that that's why, like, a lot of the people who actually wrestle for real, like Brock Lesnar, for instance, you would see him use the German suplex a lot. German
Mm.
suplexes, arm bars, all the things of that nature. Those are things that you would actually. So it's like me. I think I wrestle more like with that type of style. It's fun though. I'm not gonna lie. It's fun. I love it.
So
it's
have you been learning the flippy stuff as well, or more
Yeah.
crowd based?
I'm gonna send you some of the videos when I did train.
That
I
sounds
actually
good.
wrestled a gauntlet match in practice one time, and they put me in a gauntlet match, and I wrestled like three of the other wrestlers. It was fun. I said, me of all people, right? You put me in the gauntlet.
Uh, did they book you to win?
but who knows? I think God willing in the near future, I may probably do some matches. Some matches from time to time.
But are you hoping to get on TV, even if it's say TNA or MLW?
Uh I mean, to me, I'm not really big on like going to here or there. To me, it's just wherever I get the opportunity to make an impact and make a difference, that's where I'll go.
Oh, you gave away a clue there. Impact.
And
All right, let me get in on the ground floor of something here, apart from your good self. Name someone that you think could be one of the next big things the next couple of years.
I would say Mario, a friend of mine named Mario. He's from Poland, and he is doing some amazing things here in Chicago. He's traveling the world now wrestling, and also a young lady by the name of Bombshell Shelley. You should check her out. She actually started training with us the same day. It's funny because, like, looking back then, right? It's like seeing because in training it was like just being able to train with everybody and see how far that those two individuals have gone. I mean, it blows my mind, and it's like Shelly. She's in between Chicago, and I think somewhere she's in between like Illinois and Florida now. So she's doing a lot of things down in Florida too now. So I'm very proud
Mm-hmm.
of her, but I definitely think she's going to go on to do some great things. Mario's doing some great things, but also a young man by the name of Axel Rico. He's also a talented wrestler here from the Chicagoland area that is doing a lot of great things. He's been at it a while, and like I said, I'm looking forward to seeing that brother do some great things.
Mm-hmm. And the Polish guy, does he just go by Mario? Does he?
Yeah,
What's
yeah,
that's his wrestling name.
yeah, he uses his real name Mario. Yeah, but
All
he
right.
is very skilled, and it's amazing to me because, like I said, because when I went to the training center the other day, they have a lot of new students now. So, with the exception of a few of the other talent there, a lot of the other people there they were newer, and so I got a
Mm-hmm.
chance to film and get to know some of the newer students being trained, but it was kind of nice to see some of the other familiar faces, but some of the people who started with us, like they already have taken off, and they're doing a whole lot of amazing things out here. And I always tell them anytime I get a chance to speak with them that I'm proud of them and I'm happy for them. And I don't know, I love seeing people progress. As long as it's
Yeah.
in a good way.
Exactly. Exactly. But and so with the CSW, what's their success rate of from starting to train to having people move on to where they are wrestling at least something professional?
Well, so they had got a few people in WWE. They've gotten some people in TNA. They've gotten some people in AEW. So they pretty much have a pretty decent success rate. Um, I know like
Who'd be their biggest?
Sky Blue. She trained with CSW. She
Yeah.
was she was like when I first kind of came around. She was already kind of doing some things with AEW. She would come to practice sometime and work with us.
Hmm.
Um, who else? I know like Mustafa Ali, he was trained by Boz, the guy that trained
Okay.
me as well too. Yep.
Okay, that's
And then
cool.
there's some other people in TNA too. So it's quite a few people.
Well, TNA see a bit of resurgence now, especially with their WWE partnership.
Oh, I love it. You know what? I love it. And you know what? I wish they would have did something like that a lot sooner, but I love it. I think that it's kind of nice that promotions are doing crossovers because it's so many talented people out here. And again, it's like I know that like a lot of people give WWE and a lot of these promotions flack because they're like, why you don't use this guy, that guy, and this guy? But to be honest, there are so many talented wrestlers out here. It's
Oh
kind of
yeah.
hard to really push everybody.
Well, you
So
talk about indies, yeah. Sorry, I just saying that I enjoy the stuff I go on a monthly basis to Alpha Pro Wrestling to just about anything on WWE or AEW.
yeah,
But it for someone like myself who's been following wrestling since the 1970s, the WWE or WWF as it was back then, they never acknowledged the existence of another promotion.
I
You know,
love it.
and
But
yeah.
you know what? You actually brought up a key point that I was just thinking about. I'm glad you brought that up because,
Hmm.
to be honest with you, right, I always say that nothing is the way that it used to be. And I think that, like, in this day and time now, because, like, we live in this age now of social media, it's pros and cons to that. But truth be told, it's like, now that we have all this social media things going on, it's like a lot of the television shows and a lot of, entertainment has a bit of competition now because it's competing with so many different things. And so now I think it kind of forces them to kind of have to do things like that because it gets the people talking about it, right? The mergers and like I said, it's so many talented people out here, right? That everybody just is not always able to get pushed. But like when you do something like that, it's like, hey, TNA can send their guys over there. WWE can have some of their guys go over there. They can mix it up a little bit in it, and it's just something to kind of cater to the wrestling fans. And I think that it's actually a great thing that they're doing it now because it might not have been best for business back in the day, but I mean, in the culture that we have today, things are totally different, and that's why, like, even then, like me, I'm not one of them guys that really like it has to be like it was back then because living in this day and time, things are just different now. And
Mm.
I don't expect wrestling to be what it was 20 years ago because, the guys like when I came up, I had what The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Road Dogg, Kane, Undertaker, guys like MVP, Shelton Benjamin, Booker T, D'Lo Brown, guys Farouk,
Mm.
JBL, Carlito, the Hurricane. We had guys like those when we were younger, but now, I mean, Roman Reigns, he kind of came in kind of toward the end, but like now, even he's been around a while now, so it's like it's a very different ball game now. And I think that for the up and coming wrestlers, I think that that's actually a good thing because it kind of gives them a chance to develop and shape their characters in this new era, and to be able to
Mm.
tell memorable stories like, hey, we sent a guy from WWE over to TNA, and now that's a memorable match for the next generation. So I think that it's good that they're doing something a little different. I think that's pretty
Mm.
cool.
So, how far back does your historical knowledge of wrestling go? Like, do you know about wrestling stuff from before you're watching it?
I started watching. So I was born in 1992.
Hmm.
I believe I started watching wrestling probably like in 1993 or four. As a baby, because like my uncle was a big wrestling fan, and we used to watch it with him. And like I said, my first memory of wrestling that I have is seeing Kane. Kane, I tell everybody, any podcast you ever see me on, Kane is one of my favorite wrestlers. He was always, when I was a child, I had the toy, all of it, like Kane and the Road Dogg as a child. Those were like my ultimate two favorites. D'Lo Brown, of course, also was one of my favorite wrestlers.
Hmm.
And I don't know, like, to me, I just remember like seeing that. I remember seeing, like, Kane and Undertaker in the rivalry. I remember how upset I was when they made Kane take his mask off, but then I kind of liked when he took the mask off. Like
Yeah.
it was a different Kane, and then he took the mask off for a while, and then it was funny because some years later, I even like when remember they did the corporate Kane thing. This was later on,
Yeah.
of course, but I like corporate Kane too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he was so lucky to get that gimmick because before that, he was an evil dentist.
Yeah, I remember that.
And it's sort of funny because, yeah, but I have looked at what wrestling like was before I can remember because we used to get Americans come out here to Australia because our industry was hot back in the late 60s and throughout the 70s. There was this guy called Jim Barnett who was a big time promoter who promoted all throughout Australia. And we had Andre the Giant come out here a few times. Harley Race come out here when he was
Oh,
world
Harley
champ.
Race, yeah.
Yeah, so this would be like the equivalent of someone like a Stone Cold coming out here. They came out here when they're in their prime, and they even put our own local champions over in non-title matches.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ah,
You,
it's It's
you know
amazing
what?
stuff.
And you know what? And that's the thing, right? Like it's amazing to see how like a lot of the guys, even that you just named, that at one point in time they were just wrestling in local promotions, and then they ended up, going to bigger promotions. And I
Mm,
think that like that's the interesting thing about being a true pro wrestling fan, because a lot of people realize that actual wrestling fans who are like fans that really love the sport and love it and love everything about it, they know that there are a whole lot of more promotions, and that a lot of the people who we see on WWE and AEW now and TNA and even Ring of Honor and things of these nature, a lot of those guys and girls came from local promotions. I mean, there are some
exactly.
people that just trained and went right to WWE and things of that nature, but a lot of these
That's
individuals
such a
came
small percentage.
from working in local promotions. And so, like,
Yeah.
and there's another wrestler that I would like to give this young lady her flowers that I'm a very big fan of, but there's a young lady by the name of Izzy Marina. And
Okay.
I think she's a very talented young wrestler. I love her character. I think she's gonna keep doing some big things. I think she's already doing big things, but I'm definitely a very big fan of hers, and I wish her all the success. And like I said, I'm just always just like in awe of like so many different talented people out here. And it's like that's what I really love about the indies, because as a child, I honestly can say that I didn't know as much about the indies. I didn't know as much about the indies until I started doing my research on it, and then I ended up training on the indie scene and ended up falling in love with it. And I just love it because, like I said, you meet so many talented people and people who are actually traveling every week between Wisconsin and Illinois and Iowa and New York. And it's like it's really because I really didn't know that pro wrestling was really as big as it is in Chicago. Like, it's a very small industry, but there are always a lot of different shows every month. Like in Chicago alone, like, well, in the area rather, probably every month there may be at least like 4 to 5 shows every month. Sometimes more than that. Yeah,
Mm.
sometimes more than that.
And that's just in Chicago. How big is Chicago?
It's pretty big. We're a little smaller than what? Let's say we're I think we may be like one of the third largest cities or whatever.
Okay.
I don't know if it's not as big as LA, but we just about probably right behind them.
But as in Chicago, though, You're not just talking about the CBD. You're talking
Yeah.
about, say, the suburbs as well.
Yeah, so when you include the suburb, yeah, between Chicago and the Chicago, like the outskirts of it, it's a lot of different promotions. Cause like I say, every month, like I look on my phone, I see different flyers for different promotions and stuff. And then I got a few friends that are still, wrestling at some of them shows. Like, my good friend, Big Business Levi, he's a manager, very talented brother in the wrestling business, doing some great things. So, and hey, put it like this, I've met so many cool people. It's amazing to me. But I also kind of love hearing those stories about what different wrestlers went through while they trained, because it's like sometimes you're looking at it and it looks a certain way, but you find out sometimes these wrestlers didn't like this person in real life and that one didn't like. It's those stories always interest me.
Yeah, yeah. There's plenty of those. I mean, you draw a line. You can't even really draw a line down the middle of the wrestling sphere. It would have to go a bit like this over the place, because while this guy doesn't like this guy who he's a friend with likes this guy.
Yeah. Well, you know
Yeah,
what?
yeah, yeah.
It's funny. Like I get teased a lot by some friends of mine because I actually got bullied by a female wrestler, and
Oh.
they tease me about it all the time. But yeah, that was kind of quite the experience.
So
Yeah.
you ended up getting out of that bullying.
Uh yes and no.
Oh, dear. With storytelling, what's some of the best stories that you've liked over your journey?
Well, you mean in my own journey, or you mean like from just
Let's
watching?
go. Let's go both.
Okay, well, so from watching, one of my favorite journeys was like, kind of seeing. I like the storyline between The Rock and CM Punk.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's when like P first came to wrestling. When he went against Kane, because MVP is one of my favorite wrestlers too. But I remember him coming out of like, I need some competition. I need somebody that can make me work up a sweat. He said, I need somebody that I can sink my teeth into. And then Teddy Long comes out and tell him, well, brother, after this match you might not have no teeth. And then Kane comes out and then he post Kane in the Iron Realm. But I remember how they built MVP up. Like that was kind of like a memorable moment for me. But also seeing Undertaker with Paul Bearer, that was a memorable moment. When Paul Bearer was trying to embalm Stone Cold Steve Austin at the funeral, that was a memorable moment. So it's like it's
that
like
was
it's
almost that was almost on the job training for you.
and then I think it was when like DX when they kidnapped Paul Bearer and put him on the tour bus. That was a memorable moment. but
So, yeah.
so it's like I have like many memorable. It's so many I don't even think I can list them all because like I just have so many. And then even when I think like when Triple H like when he like anything with Triple H like I used to love seeing Triple H cut his promos. And I remember Triple H when he had the long hair, he wore the ponytail and all that. But like seeing him in DX and Evolution, I don't say this too often, but also I was a very big fan of Triple H too. He was also one of my favorite wrestlers, and I'll tell you why. Because like when you think about Triple H, right, from DX to Evolution, right, it's like he was kind of always the leader in the groups. But also to me, he was just a really good wrestler, a really good storyteller. And I always liked the Triple H better as a heel.
Mm.
But I gotta say, but in my top probably five wrestlers, I would say it has to be Kane. It's Road Dogg. It's MVP. It's Carlito. It's D'Lo Brown, and I would just add six. I gotta say Roman Reigns. I'm a very big Roman Reigns. Like I love the Tribal Chief gimmick too. By the way.
Is that a? Because it sounds like that's a mix of wrestling storytellers in the ring and promo storytellers in the ring. Would that be correct?
Absolutely. And I guess I gotta say seven because CM Punk is also one of my favorite wrestlers.
Yeah.
I would never leave CM Punk off my list because, to be honest with you, not only is he also from Chicago, but
Hmm.
in a way, I like that CM Punk was very outspoken. I loved his character. I like when he used to just come out and do like the pipe bombs, and used to love to see CM Punk just come out and talk. Even if he didn't wrestle. And I like the one time I think when they were here in Chicago, it was Labor Day, and he was here, and he was like, when he came out, he was like just like you on Labor Day. He was like none of you went to work, and he was like I think I'm taking the day off too.
So, did you see any of CM Punk stuff, especially like in AEW?
I did. I was so happy when he went to AEW, but like anywhere CM Punk showed up, I was always happy because he was one of my favorite wrestlers and always will be. And like I said, I have like a long list. Like I always say that I don't. I have a top 10, but it's like if I have a top 10, then it's gonna turn into 15 because it's
Yeah,
so many people. Like it's
that's
yeah.
true. Yeah, yeah. But how many live shows have you gone to in like WWE, AEW in recent memory?
So I haven't been to any of them actually. Um, I haven't been to any of them. Not as far as AEW. I've only been to more indies live shows. And
Hmm.
like I said, and I think honestly that's been more because I was actually doing it. I did have an opportunity to go to a WWE show, but I looked up. My uncle them already had the tickets, and they went. But I haven't been. But you know what? I would like to. Maybe, hopefully, I get a chance to be backstage at one of them or something. I don't know, but I would love to. You know.
Hmm.
But I've been to plenty of indie shows, and like I said, I've met quite a few wrestlers from WWE and AEW, but I've met them all at indie shows. Like I even met Eugene. I took a picture with. Remember Eugene?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
he's a very talented wrestler.
absolutely, and he's really an humble guy too. When I was coming
Yeah.
out of I was coming out the building, and he was coming out the building. And I was walking to the car, and I chatted with him, and they're like, yeah, we take a picture. We took a picture, whatever. But he's a really humble guy. Because sometimes you go to some of the shows, and sometimes some of the people, like right after their match, they gone, they getting up out of there. But he actually hung
Mm.
around quite a bit.
And I suppose also too, because it's easier now because say 20, 30 years ago, you can understand if wrestlers didn't hang around because they've got to get back to their hotel room, get cleaned up, and get a quick nap before they drive off to the next town. Especially back in the 80s and so forth. They were travelling like 4, 5, 6 hours to the next show. So you
Oh
can
yeah, and
understand why they do that.
and that's understandable because again, like on the indie scene, and that's why I say like I fell in love more with the indies because that's where I've had my personal experience, and I like and I'm not gonna lie, like I love WWE, I love TNA, I love AEW, but a lot of times I like promoting some of the indies wrestlers just because I feel like there sometimes. I think that it's not always as much support there. You know what I'm saying? And
Hmm.
so a lot of times I try to be more supportive on that end, because I do understand that like, not every wrestler is being paid thousands of dollars to wrestle. Like, there are some people
Oh,
that may not be getting paid anything. Like when I trained, I wasn't getting paid for that. I mean, like I
no.
said, I did it because it was something that I liked. And so I try to support more so there.
Well, if you look at any of my previous shows, when I'm not, well, like I've already mentioned them today, Alpha Pro Wrestling. I nearly every show I talk about them because that's the ones I go to. I go there each month. I'm bummed out because I can't see their Saturday shows next month because I've got a conference to go to. But at least I'll be able to go see the Thursday night show.
Yeah.
Um, I pick and choose what I watch on TV because it doesn't excite me as much as it used to, and they're rehashing a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And
That's how I figure.
I can understand that. And that's why, like I said, like I really fell more in love with the indie scene because again, seeing individuals that we've actually had the chance to train with and actually know, just kind of seeing them shine and be up and coming, I think that I'm kind of more interested in that because that's kind of what my goal is like, to eventually, possibly start training young people to wrestle like how I was trained in high school, and hopefully if they decide to go into professional wrestling, then, we can kind of try to help them venture off into that if that's what they want. But I think that my interest is kind of more like I'm not gonna like I'm glad that WWE has NXT. I like NXT. I think that to be honest with you, if I was able to go to anything, it would probably be like more like an NXT because I just like seeing the next up and coming, generation because I feel like when
Hmm.
I was coming up, we really didn't get to see people until unless you were going to the indie shows, but you really didn't get to see people until they were on television. And then they'd be like, oh, it's a new guy in WWE, but whole time this new guy might have been wrestling for 6 or 7 years before he even got there.
Hmm.
So he's
Yeah,
not really
exactly.
he's new to the public, but in a sense, really not new. Because a lot of those individuals been training for years.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, you go back to what we talked about before with the 1980s, when the WWE didn't recognise anyone that was, from another federation. They, they could have been world champions in other federations. They come here and oh
Absolutely.
yeah, they're a veteran. Oh, how do you know they're a veteran if you don't, didn't see what they were?
Yeah, and you're right about that. And I think that that's really so cool because a lot of times you'll learn, and this is why I would say that I had a good friend of mine by the name of John. He's like a very dear friend of mine in pro wrestling, and I remember when I used to talk to him, and I would ask him, "What you want to do? You want to go like the WWE, AEW, or TNA, or Ring of Honor or what you want to do, New Japan or what. And he's like, Wade, I'm just enjoying the journey and not the destination. And so I always borrow that quote for him. Like, it's like it really is a journey, not a destination, because we see all the time, even with big name wrestlers, like, they may be in this promotion for 5 years and then go to this one and that one. So it's still a journey. It's not so much a destination, but it's a journey, because I look like now, like MVP, Bobby Lashley, Shelton Benjamin, these guys over in AEW now, and they're doing an amazing job over there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I think that it's just a learning experience, and it's just one of them things where you just try to support the people that you really care for in wrestling, and you value and you appreciate what they do. But yeah, but don't get me wrong, like I still support WWE and AEW, but I really have a heart for the indies promotions, because like I said,
Mm.
it's just nice to see people up and coming. Like, yeah, as a child I watched those things, but I never really understood what those individuals went through. But being trained on the indies, it gave me a closer look. Like, wow, like this is what it's really like. Like, this is interesting. It's very interesting.
So would you, with any sort of wrestling, would you look at a match differently now that you're trained from when you're a fan? Would you look at the match
Absolutely.
differently? And you'd be able to say, you because I'd imagine you'd be able to say, oh, this is when they're going to go home, or this is what he should have done in this situation.
Yeah, and you know what? It's amazing, because I know, like, a lot of times when we are training, we do actually have matches. And I was just, like I said, I was just at training the other day, and I was watching a match with these two guys. I think one young man was like Latino, and the other one was he? I think it was two Latino wrestlers, and they were in the ring,
Okay.
and they were going at it, and they were high flying and jumping off the rope, and hurricanranas and everything going on. Like, it was one part where the young man, he jumped over the rope. He jumped over the rope. I had told, because we brought one of our friends out there. We said, you got to get back. You better get out the way. But they actually, like, put on a really good match, and I think that it's really good, like, seeing that. It is like, wow, like, you're watching these individuals who, that at some point, God willing, they're gonna go on and do great things. And I just celebrate that, because I think, to me, kind of seeing people learn and grow. To me, I value that, and that's what I'm more into now. And it's funny, like, a lot of times when you start doing something, like you said, you look at it differently. Like, you look at it one way and be like, oh man, I want to do this and do that. But if you actually participate in it and try it out, you might say, you know what? I think I like this part of it better. Because we do know that there are a lot of wrestlers who, at some point, they no longer wrestle in a sense, because they're now trained the next generation. And we're seeing that a lot more now. And it's like, because I look at some people like, wow, they used to be big time rap, but now they just training people, because I kind of see where they got their love for training, because it's fun. It's a lot of
Mm.
fun in it.
Well, some wrestlers that are either mid carders or enhancement talents are now making some of the biggest trainers, like Johnny Rods. He was
Yeah.
always QT Marshall. The only big time wrestler who's, or I don't know how much training he does, but owns a wrestling school is Cody Rhodes,
Okay.
Nightmare Factory.
Yeah, I think
Nightmare Factory.
I think Seth Rollins has a school in Iowa, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm. But
Um,
then, how much training does he do personally?
yeah, that's true.
It's easy just to sign the checks.
And I know like Booker T. I think Rikishi has a training
Yeah, that's
school too,
true.
if I'm not
Oh,
mistaken.
Frozen. Yeah, yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So yeah. So what the question I was asking was, what are some of the better promotions in Chicago?
Uh
Indies.
we have like NWA, CSW. There's a few more. I don't know the name of Lucia's promotion, but I know that she has a lot of some colleagues there. But they have quite a few, and then there are just a few that pop up here and there, and then they don't do anything for a while. Then they'll come back.
When you
But
say NWA, is that the Billy Corgan one?
I believe so.
Okay. Well, they've got TV or at least a YouTube deal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, so quite a few of my friends they wrestle there, and then like I said, some of the individuals that trained with us at CSW who they went on, like I said, they were doing it full time, so now they're kind of all over the place now, you know. But
Hmm.
they have so many out here, it's amazing. And like I said, every now and then you'll have one pop up out of nowhere, and then it's like they may not do a show for a while, then they'll just come back.
Mm.
Yeah, but
Okay.
I
So
love it.
when's your next match?
Well, so I am looking to actually. I'm in the process of relocating. I'm in the process of relocating, so I'm gonna be living in between Chicago, Illinois, and then somewhere out in California near like the Anaheim area. So I'm kind of relocating. So what I'm going to do, I'm waiting on a few friends to get their promotion up and running, and
Hmm.
once they do that, I'm going to jump right back in. You know, I think I'm gonna start back training again, definitely,
Hmm.
but I'm just waiting to see what I want to do with it, man. However it works out, you know.
So you'll be working out at California.
Between Illinois and California, yeah.
Oh, so you're going to be multi-locating type thing.
Yeah, so I'm actually in the process of getting my funeral director license in California as well. So I'm kind of making the jump there. Yeah, a lot
All
of people
right.
just were like, "What are you going out there for?" Like Hollywood is messed up now. I'm like, no, no. I'm like, it's more to my life than just that. You know, I'm not. I strictly love being independent. I love being a filmmaker, but I have many hats that I wear, and it's a lot of reasons people go other places. You know.
Yeah, fair enough. No, I thought you said you're moving from Chicago to, but you're living in both places. That's gonna be fun.
Yeah, it's just you know what it's like my grandfather passed away back in January. You know, things in life kind
Sorry to
of
hear that.
changed a little bit, and then I started my own businesses, so just trying to venture out and get some things going. And then, like I said, I've been this is not something that I randomly doing. This was something that I was thinking about like 2 or 3 years ago, and just it's just kind of time, And I feel like a lot of times in life, when you want to progress, sometimes you got to get out your comfort zone a little bit and just you know
Hmm.
do something a little different.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, wish you all the very best of luck in your ventures. Hope to see you in a wrestling ring soon. Um, send me a couple of your wrestling matches in training. That'd be fun to add to the piece. Um, but apart from that, this has been a really, really interesting and enlightening discussion. It's great to get into the ground floor because I hope you can get into the big leagues one day. That'd be really good to see you there.
Well, you know what? You never know. Like, did you see? Like, I see Jelly Roll. He's involved in wrestling now, and I think I read somewhere that
Yeah.
he actually trained. They said that he trained before he was even, got famous of that nature. But a lot of times you learn a lot of new things about people. You
Mm.
discover things about people you never knew sometimes. So I'm always excited to see what people can do. We'll see where it goes. I'm excited.
All right, for all the way from Chicago, but newest wrestling mate. Thank you very much, Wade Simmons. All the best to you.
Anytime.